Hello and welcome. I'm Patrick Curtis, Chief Monkey of Wall Street Oasis, and this is Monkey to Millions, a show where you get a front row seat as I mentor young students and professionals to try and help them break into their dream jobs. In the first cohort, you'll meet 4 students, all preparing for intense job interviews while trying to also balance a personal life and schoolwork. The goal of this show is to shine a light on the struggles of trying to break into competitive positions with a non traditional background and to give you a roadmap for your own success. My hope is that as you get to know these 4 impressive students, you are inspired to dream big. Remember, these are real people and this is their true story. Let's get to it. John's revised resume is working well. He's getting more traction with his networking, which includes second-round interviews at 2 well-respected investment banks, as well as one boutique in Newport Beach. In this session, I conduct a mock interview with John and give him advice on how to improve his technical interview prep, as well as how to come across as more polished on the behavioral portion of the interview. But first, listen to John himself over the previous few weeks leading up to this session.
Update on my end. Still networking. I couldn't tell you an exact measure, but let's just say I've been hitting a target rate of 5 to 10% of the people and the responses that I've been getting. I kicked off 2 interview processes in the past week. One with a middle market healthcare bank in San Francisco, and then one with a boutique fintech bank in San Francisco. Other than that, still networking, trying to keep up with school. Week 7, I got 2 midterms this week, so we'll see where it goes.
Just to start off, it'd be great if you could just give me a review of what you have coming up, because I know it's Monday now. It's the 18th.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on.
So I had a first round with FD Partners last week, and that went well. And I got an email saying they want to have a second round interview this week. I haven't heard back from them yet to schedule it, but I know that's coming up. And then after that, if that goes well, there'll be a super day. I also heard back from Wedbush, their healthcare group in San Francisco, and turn in a sample, like a little case study, and talk to their operations administrator in the office, and that went well too. I think it was just kind of like a cultural fit check, and she said she'd get back to me with further instructions about speaking to an associate or MD, and I'm sure that will be more technical. It's a lot more about the market. And then I also have an interview in person, actually, with a boutique in Newport Beach this Friday.
Nice. So it's a lot.
Yeah. So it's definitely been ramping up, and I'm still applying to, basically all over, just shooting my shot anywhere.
Good, man. Good. Okay, so how'd you get that one in Newport?
Just networking. Yeah, I reached out to somebody who was there. It's a really small boutique, 6 guys. And then we connected well over the phone. We had similar backgrounds and similar interests. And then, I got a call a week later, just out of nowhere, from him as well as the MD, and they're both on the phone asking me if I can come in next week, which is this Friday. And they know.
We got to get going on your mock then. Okay, so let's do a mock interview. Let's pretend when's the FT one?
I assume this week. I'm not sure when. I think I'll hear from them either later today or early tomorrow.
And you think that's still gonna be another phone one? And then
it's gonna be another phone one, and then after that there'll be a super day.
God, do you know when that's coming up, or they didn't say yet?
The super day or the phone?
The super day.
No, they didn't say when. I think they're just kind of taking super days on a rolling basis right now, just flying kids up.
Okay. So when you've been practicing more like just the general IB, YIB kind of thing, that type of stuff?
Yeah, I kind of stumbled with that portion in the first round, but I kind of got through it. Kind of how I go about that one is, I talk about
you don't have to talk about it. We'll just go do it, and then I can give you feedback. But let's start. Let's assume it's just a general IB interview, so that we can keep it more high level this time because it's not for a specific firm that you're trying to prep for.
Okay.
But just know that I would ask you why FT or why Woodbush, and you want to have specific answers, and ideally you can link it back to somebody you spoke with there.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely, when I was talking to the guy about it, I actually went to one of the cocktail open houses in the summer, and I
Hey, real
talked to an
quick, do you have
associate.
some other stuff open on your computer? It's a little choppy. I don't know if it's my connection or a different place you're at.
That's probably the different place I'm at. I'm sorry. I
It's okay.
got kicked out of a couple study rooms.
No worries. No worries.
I was trying to snag one, and then yeah, here I am outside on
No worries.
campus.
Yeah, it's working good enough so we can keep it going. But okay, so let's just jump straight into a mock, and then 15, 20 minutes, see how it goes, and then I'll just take some notes and give you feedback after. I think that'll probably be the most valuable. So, all right, just to start off, John, thanks so much for coming to meet with us today. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Likewise, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So real quick, if you could just quickly walk me through your resume, give me a little spiel about who you are, where you came from. That'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm originally from Riverside, California. I'm a current senior at UCI studying quantitative economics and minoring in accounting. My first tad bit experience with finance was at Disney. That role was more so FP&A and reporting. And I didn't have an interest in investment banking until shortly after that. At Disney, my experience became kind of stagnant, even when I did ask more work and something a little more transactional. So as I was looking for roles my junior year, I kind of missed out on summer analyst opportunities because I didn't find out about investment banking till the middle of my junior year. But I was, fortunate enough to snag a spot at Harvey and Company, which is a buy side advisory firm, which enabled me to get my feet wet in M&A and learn the process of the buy side process specifically, but also about how private equity groups think. And after that experience, I realized I needed more experience on the sell side. So that's when I started looking for more internship experiences, and I was able to land a role at B. Riley. Now at B. Riley, I'm doing a lot of modeling work as well as working on sims and a lot of ad hoc processes that the analyst needs me on a day-to-day basis.
All right, why don't you walk me through one of the deals you've been working on at B. Riley?
Okay. So we actually just closed a deal this past Wednesday, which was super exciting. It was the first time I've seen a deal close. It was a contract battery manufacturing here in Southern California. The revenues were 10 million and their EBITDA was about 2 million. And one of the private equity groups that approached us was looking for a really small platform in the space. It was their first fund. So that's why they're looking for something a little bit smaller. And it was going for 10 times. So we were able to get an EV of 20 million.
And so you were running the sell side process for this battery manufacturer?
Yes.
And tell me what specific roles you played on that. So what were you responsible for in that transaction?
Mm-hmm. So my specific role in part of the transaction was, assisting the analysts and the associates with preparing the sim, as well as helping them prepare parts of the disclosure schedule and as well as part of the model as well. A lot of my work on the modeling had to do with spreading the financial statements. And then when we put together the disclosure statement, it was cleaning up a lot of data dumps from AR aging schedules that, the client gave us.
So the financial statements, what specifically were you doing in there?
I was taking past balance sheets and past income statements, spreading it across the monthly time periods that they gave us, and then rolled it up into yearly timeframes.
So you're just entering in, you're just getting it all into Excel because it was all PDF or something?
Yeah, it was. I mean, they gave us into Excel formats, so I took all the past income and balance sheets, cleaned it up, put it into one master sheet, and then rolled it up using an index match formula.
Okay. And do you feel like you still need more reps on the financial modeling side, or do you feel like you're ready to go to hit the ground running? Or because I know you did have a formal internship over the summer, do you feel like you're ready for that type of work, like doing actual three-step financial modeling and sell side M&A modeling?
I feel like I can always improve on my modeling skills. and I feel like I have improved significantly with my internship at B. Riley. I am also taking the Wall Street prep course right now to gear up when I do start the full-time analyst role.
Got it. Okay, and then tell me a little bit about why investment banking interests you.
Yeah, so it kind of went back to my experience at Disney. Like I said, the role became a little bit stagnant and, kind of slow at times. And coming from a competitive background and always on the move, I was looking for something more fast-paced and competitive. And after my time at Harvey, I realized that this is the work I wanted to do and kind of full pledge into that.
Okay, and then you said you like the fast pace. So what's the most hours you've ever worked in a week?
Possibly 90 at B. Riley before school started. I was working full time at B. Riley, and yeah, it was about 90 hours for the week. So that was a
How'd you
good
feel about that?
experience.
How'd you feel about that? It was good. What do you mean it's
I
good? You
enjoyed
enjoyed
it.
it?
I enjoyed it just because working those many hours as I did, I definitely learned a lot, and being around the people I really enjoyed the time there.
So why do you think you didn't find out about investment banking until so late?
I think partly because of the school system I'm in, UCI, specifically the business and economics programs. They don't push finance as hard as other data science roles or accounting roles. So I have to do a little bit of digging myself to find out about investment banking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. And do you feel like, we're getting hundreds of applicants for this position? Kind of what do you think really makes you stand out the most?
I think it has to be my work ethic. I know a lot of your applicants are probably coming from top tier schools, and you guys have a lot of on campus recruiting. And coming from a non target school, as you probably are aware of, I have to do a lot of networking and grinding out myself to get into this interview process as well as others.
Okay. Anything specific though? Like any examples you have?
Could you kind of
Like
explain that
examples
a
of
little bit
your
more?
work ethic besides getting into this interview process. Like, are there any examples of your work ethic that
I guess one good example would be this past winter and spring quarter in 2019. I was working two internships. My Harvey and Company internship actually started my spring quarter, and I also have a hobby of mine, which is music. And I interned at Power 106, which was in LA. So on top of the 16 units, which is a full course load at UCI, I was also working two internships. So I would go from internship in the morning at Harvey from 8 to 1, class from 2 to 5, and then I'd bust my way to LA, which would be a 2 hour commute to uh, Power 106, where I would work 6:30 or 7 to 1 a.m. and then same thing the next day.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So,
Yeah,
real
definitely.
quick, let's just do a quick little technical. How would a $10 increase in depreciation expense affect each of the three financial statements?
Yeah, so this is the one I always have kind of trouble with. Um, this is the one that gets me. uh, so
Well, you can
uh,
just try.
yeah. So the $10 increase in depreciation is an expense. So therefore, the net income will drop $10. Um, but this is what I want to ask you. Is I was actually looking through your guide, and I'm reading it right now in front of me. It says reduce the income by 10 times one minus the tax rate, and I totally kind of didn't understand that part. Um, so this is
Because
kind of
yeah,
off.
it's lowering your
off.
it's lowering your taxable income.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
well, so what's happening is like $10 taxes, it means you're not $10 higher increase in expense means you're
Hmm.
lowering your operating profit by $10. So you're actually paying,
Gotcha.
so there's less to tax. So it's not like you're losing the full $10 down to net income.
Hmm.
Meaning
Okay,
like,
so
yeah, it's not as if you're saying I'm lowering your taxes by $10 and so your net income goes up by $10. It's saying you're lowering your operating profit by $10. So you're by default you have less profit, so you're paying less taxes. So it's like
gotcha.
there are taxes before your operating profit. Taxes are in between there and the net income. So
So it goes So it goes like operating profit, you're decreasing that by 10. So then
you're only paying it's really only lowering your if you assume a 40% tax rate, it means it lowers your net income by $6.
Okay. And
so
then
keep going from there.
okay. So then that rolls up into net income, which will be reduced by $6. But then we also have to add back depreciation by $10 because of the increase, which would result in then ending cash by increasing about $4. And then that cash would flow into the balance sheet, which would increase PP&E by $4. No, cash increases by $4. PP&E decreases by $10 because of depreciation.
Right.
And then retained earnings decreases by $6.
Right, you got it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think just practice that a little bit more, but like let's keep going. What else we can do here? How would you value a company with no revenue?
How would I value?
Like a startup or whatever.
Yeah. I'll look at their assets and retained earnings. I didn't.
It's fine. It's fine. So like we'll go over that one, but basically you can talk about constructing a discounted cash flow model for future cash flows and then discounting them back. So it's
So you DCF for that one.
Yeah, you can use a DCF. So you can look at or you could use other operating metrics to value the company based on, like, let's say it's a website with X number, 50,000 subscribers, but no revenue. You could look at other similar websites that have value per subscriber and apply that multiple to what you're valuing.
I would assume, yeah, my like first assumption when you said like no revenue, I figured they'd have no EBITDA at that point either. So how would you go about, I guess you'd have to make a lot of assumptions to
future. Yeah,
forecast the free cash flows. Okay. Exactly. And then just looking at comparables makes sense.
Yeah, comparable either operating metrics or I mean, you can't look at comparables based on trading comps.
Yeah.
No earnings, right? But you could look at comparables especially if it's a startup, it's tough, but you can based on like operating metrics like website subscribers, something like that. Question, tell me where mezz sits in the capital structure, mezzanine debt.
It sits in the middle.
What's between what typically?
I think it goes, I forgot what the first one is, but it goes mezz then senior. Yeah, I didn't teach you anything about it.
It's okay. It goes senior, which what makes a loan senior secured? What? Okay, that's fine. So typically it's like number one, they get paid first in order to sort of liquidation, so like any sort of bankruptcy. Number two, it typically has collateral backed by it, so like the machinery, the assets of the company, they can stake claim to that. So it's the most secured piece of debt. That's why it's senior. It's up at the top. And that is specifically like it typically pays the lowest yield, so lowest interest rate, because it's the safest. Then before the opposite end is like on the debt is what's typically called like subordinated debt, which is not always, but typically unsecured, meaning it doesn't have any assets or collateral backing it, like high yield paper or whatever. So you get a higher yield, a higher interest rate for that because it's riskier. So mezzanine, you can think of it as like in between. You can think of it either after subordinated or like a little bit more senior to subordinated. It depends on the structure. Oftentimes mezz can have like some co-investment equity features where like there's warrants attached to it. Oh, it's less common nowadays. But yeah, again, it has lower rights in like in the case of a bankruptcy or something like that. So
gotcha.
And then what's higher on the capital structure, preferred stock or common stock?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
What's higher on the capital structure, the preferred stock or common stock?
Wouldn't it be preferred stock?
Right. Why? It just is. It just is.
Yeah, it just
So,
is.
yeah, so like, preferred stock, they typically get a liquidation preference. So let's say there's like
Yeah.
a company that goes bankrupt and or like whatever, there's $100 million left to distribute and there's $50 million of like debt
Mhm.
and there's like $40 million of like equity value left.
Mhm.
Um, what would get if there was like 50 million of preferred, all that 40 million that was left, or that whatever was left over go to the preferred before the common even gets a penny, typically. Sometimes there's even a
Yeah.
liquidation preference, like a multiple liquidation preference. So like they have to get 2x their return before the common sees a penny. So something to pay
Mhm.
attention to on that.
Okay.
But yeah, you should know a little bit more about like how it flows.
That's
Yep,
gotcha.
how debt structure like debt. You senior, then mezz, then subordinated, and then the equity.
Yeah, I kind of
Um,
skipped over those ones. Okay.
it's fine. It's fine. Um, tell me a little bit about so tell me a little bit about specifically what what you feel like is you said why investment banking, you like the fast pace, all that stuff. Tell me, have you spoken with any investment bankers?
Yeah, I have. Actually, over this past summer, I've connected with well over 500 investment bankers and learning a little bit more about what they do. Um, and yeah,
How many have you
I've
spoken with?
enjoyed having you I've spoken with. I would say 50 to 75.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's good. Um, do you feel like it's going to be too much for you, the hours sometimes?
No, I don't believe so. As I kind of mentioned in a previous story, where I worked at Harvey and then I had school on top of it, and then uh, I um, used to the long hours, and I think having the experiences at B. Riley and Harvey and company, and kind of knowing what's to come, and actually enjoying the work I've done, I think it's very doable.
How much do you know about LBOs, leverage buyouts? Can you describe to me like what it is?
So, to my understanding, an LBO is when a private equity groups leverages more debt than they do equity to buy a company, and then they use the company's free cash flows to pay off the debt over time. Um, and you know, within a 5 year, possible, usually for standards 5 years, when the private equity group wants to exit, they take the equity value for what it is, and they get a nice little penny.
So tell me, why even use leverage purchasing a company? Why do they do that?
Is it because that debt costs less than equity, and that's why they use leverage?
Um, yeah, but specifically yes, but tell me a little bit more. Like, so if I want to buy a company that's worth $100 million, why would I go out and raise $80 million and write a check of 20? Why would that be attractive to me? What's the point of the private equity firm? What am I trying to do as a private equity firm? Like, what is my mandate? Like, what is my
Mandates
goal?
to in most cases to turn around, the distressed company into a more profitable one. Um,
Yeah, I mean, my mandate is to my limited partners, to my LPs,
mhm,
which basically they gave me money to try and get
mhm,
a return. So I want to make sure that I'm putting their money to work in companies that are going to generate a return anywhere between, depending on the fund, 15 to 30%, let's say.
okay.
So when I'm looking at opportunities, and let's say it's a traditional private equity firm, which by the way, it's not always distressed. It's actually often not distressed. It's just companies
Mhm,
that typically have stable cash flows where you can put
okay.
on a decent amount of leverage on pretty safely. So they're non-cyclical in non-cyclical industries, stuff like that. So where you're able to write a smaller equity check allows you to juice your returns because of the efficiencies with taxes and all that stuff. So and being able to use the cash flows from the firm to pay down or pay a dividend to the investors or back to the private equity fund makes it a much more efficient structure in terms of generating higher returns. So
Okay.
that's why they use debt. It's basically it allows them to take something. If they wrote a full $100 million equity check and just grew the company's EBITDA and sold it, they could make X, let's say 10%. But with leverage, instead of writing that $100 million, they can write a $20 million check, a much smaller check, and the leverage they get from that and the scale which their returns get used is very significant. So that in that example, something where that would only be like a 10% IRR could be like a 25% IRR with leverage.
Gotcha.
Or much higher. And no, I don't know the exact math, but okay. So yeah, I would learn a little bit more about LBOs. But where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is it banking? Are you a banker for life, or what's the plan?
So my outlook in 5 years is definitely, I would say, kind of uncertain, but I would love to stay within finance. I do see myself coming out the gate pretty strong into investment making, and that's where my interest and passion lies at the moment. But in 5 years, it's still uncertain. But I'd love to stay within business and finance.
Okay, great. Tell me a little bit about. I'm still not letting you off on the technicals a little bit. I just want to just see.
I know.
I gave you some medium difficulty ones. I want to see kind of where you follow up. So what's the link between the balance sheet and the statement of cash flows?
So specifically in net working capital, we take the changes from the previous balance sheet and then the current balance sheet, and we adjust the cash flow of operations with the changes in working capital. And then we also use any investments or PP&E into the C5.
Sorry, you broke up for a second there.
It falls into cash flow.
Sorry,
what happens?
You broke up for a little bit. You said the depreciation on PP&E. What happens?
I didn't say depreciation. I just said PP&E. Any like investments or PP&E change of that falls into cash flow from investing, and then long-term debt or common stock, which is reflected in the balance sheet, falls into cash flow from financing, and then the bottom line or change in cash rolls into our new balance sheet.
Got it. Okay, great. What do you think in terms of, let me see here. This is a good one. What's the difference between enterprise value and equity value?
Equity value is kind of more looked into as market cap. Market cap could be calculated by outstanding shares times the share price. And then enterprise value is the market cap plus debt minus cash minus preferred equity interest and minus minority interest.
Plus minority,
I believe.
Interest. Plus minority. Yeah, it's basically it's the cash or it's the value left over after they pay their outstanding obligations. So like the net debt, like you said, plus the debt minus cash. So their net debt. Plus the preferred stock, plus minority interest. So it's like the enterprise value is the full value of the entire enterprise, whereas the equity value is kind of like the value of the common shares, which is why you call it market cap, because it's what the common shares are typically trading at.
Okay.
But yeah, that was right. Okay, so let's just go over what you did. I think that overall, pretty clear. You're a few things. Number one, just the ums. Just try to eliminate the ums. Okay. Instead of feeling, just be comfortable and silent. Be comfortable with silence as you're gathering your thoughts. So practice doing some video answers of like, walk me through your resume. That should have no ums. You should literally practice that 20 times on your video, like tonight, because that should be like super polished. It should be super polished. Like there should be no hesitation. You should know exactly where you're going, what you're going into. And I like the story. I just think I especially liked how you talked about, you learned about it a little bit late, but then you got the internships, you worked on these few deals. I really like that, how you're improving. I like they didn't oversell it, how you're still improving. You're doing courses, that type of stuff. Examples. you need to be pulling in examples proactively, not waiting for me to ask you for examples. So like the work ethic thing, oh, I'm just hardworking, I'm from a non-target. Like that's not enough. Tell me,
Okay.
give me an example of specifically what I had to pull it out from you, that thing where you worked not, 100 hours, you're going in at the whatever time and then work till 1 a.m. Give that to me. Give me that, like the juice. Give me the actual details of specifically why you're a hard worker. Not just anyone
Okay.
can say it. Oh, I'm from Dr. I got in this interview. Don't let that. Be specific
Okay.
about your schedule, your crazy schedule, like what, when it was the most crazy about you, and say how like you felt like it was, it was fine for you, and you feel like, now's the time to work hard and learn as much as you can. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think talking about being around really bright people who are going to teach you a lot, I think is a good thing to mention in terms of why IB. In terms of where you see yourself, I think that was fine. You didn't force it. You didn't say like, "Oh, I know I'm going to be doing banking or whatever." You didn't like bullshit
Yeah.
me, which is good. I think you can be a little bit more specific.
Okay.
Since it is a banking interview, you could say something like, but I do like the transactional nature of investment banking. I do think it's interesting getting to look at different industries, different companies, and then kind of being trusted to consummate those transactions is, I think, an exciting place to be. So I could very much see myself staying in banking
Gotcha.
for a good amount of time. But obviously, I'll know a lot more, in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. Let me see what else I wrote here. Yeah, so examples are really big, man. Like that's a big thing. Not just removing gums like I'm saying right now, but really weaving in your stories on all these behaviorals. So do you have stories that you've kind of outlined or prepped
I
beforehand?
I mean the stories I just gave you are basically everything I've outlined. Working at Harvey and Power 106 at the same time, and then my experience growing from Disney to B Riley.
But
I haven't really out.
what if they ask you something of like, tell me a time when you disagreed with a manager? What did you do? Tell me about a time when you were working in a team and you disagreed, or you did. Do you have things you can pull from quickly, like stories, group
Um,
group projects,
but
work stuff at work?
yeah, usually for those I kind of pull from group projects or my time at Wing AI Technologies or my time on exec within my fraternity.
So just be
Not
ready
so
for those, like
much.
the conflict ones,
Okay. Okay.
such that um, you can point to things where there was conflict, but you kind of addressed it in a mature manner and just communicated, such that they
Okay.
can see you work well in teams. Like, give me an
Okay.
example of you working well in teams. Give me an example where you disagree with somebody. Give me an example where you disagree with the direction the leader was taking you? What did you do?
Hmm.
Like, it shouldn't be broad platitudes. It should be specifically what you did. Like the situation, the star framework situation. What was your
Hmm.
task? What was the action? What was the result? STAR. You should have
Hmm.
each story should have like a bullet on each of those, and I would actually write them out.
Okay. I'll do
And if
that.
you have like 7 or 8 prepped and just review all of them, and then when the question starts, like if a behavioral question comes, you'll quickly be able to, like, in your mind, scan across the 7 or 8 stories and be like, I'm going to grab that one and pull it out, and it'll be ready to go, and you'll
Okay.
be like, boom, 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 and it'll actually help you because you'll be like, okay, I want to make sure I say these numbers, I say this situation, I say this action, this result. You know
Hmm.
what I'm
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
saying?
Okay. Definitely go ahead and do those.
I would do that even before all the technical prep that I think you're going to need.
Hmm.
I think you need a little bit more specifics on, like, make sure you can walk through a DCF, make sure you know a little bit more about LBO.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I got you.
Because I
I
think honestly
definitely.
the behaviors are tough. I think the second round is going to be pretty technical, especially at FT.
Yeah. I kind of looked into your database as well as Glassdoor, and yeah, they get
Yeah.
a little more technical, and that's what I kind of wanted to ask. How what obviously you asked me about like debts and LBOs, but when the first interview, when he asked me questions, is more so about valuation. He asked me a couple
Yeah.
numbers, like kind of brain teasers, like what would be
I
the
knew
EBITDA margin.
I knew you'd be ready
And
for the valuation questions. That's why I went somewhere else.
Yeah, that's why it was mostly like valuation questions, like what's CAPM, what's data on levered, or
Yep.
um, yeah, and kind of basic. Give me like one basic accounting question. It was super basic. I don't know how or why he asked me that one, but yeah, like I definitely need to kind of study up on LBOs and debts and definitely more accounting.
Yeah, just to have it's not like you need to know it inside or out, or if you get one wrong, it's not the best. Try not to BS if you're not sure. So, honestly, I'm not sure. And
You just say that?
yeah, you can just say honestly, I'm not sure. This is what I know, and just say what you know. Just state what you
Okay.
know, and don't try to like
Okay.
oversell it or BS because it'll. The most important thing is that you just come across as likable. Number one.
Okay. Okay. That
So,
makes sense. Because I never
because
knew how to approach those situations. Because I think I read somewhere it's like, try your best to answer the question at all costs.
yeah,
So
you should try your best and just start stating what you know, so that way it's one of those things where it's like you're showing what you do know.
mhm,
Well, I
mhm.
know that leverage buyouts when a private equity fund, blah blah blah, raises debt in order to lower their equity check and think that's how they juice returns, blah blah blah. But
Okay.
I
Okay.
think it'll serve you well if you don't oversell. And I don't think you did. I thought that was one of the better things is you didn't like bullshit too much when you didn't know something. Um, what else could I tell you?
Good question. Oh,
Yeah.
something like I read online. This is just like one of those questions on Glassdoor, or I think one of your MWSO.
Hmm.
Somebody said, "Oh, I got a question. How do you value a SaaS company from FT Partners?" Which I think is, a pretty reasonable question to be asked. Is that kind of a reframe of the question you asked me? How do you value a company with no revenue, or were you kind of just, look at the SaaS companies? What's the term you used? That kind of look at their metrics, operational
Op-
metrics.
Operating metrics. Well, I mean, with
Yeah.
SaaS, software as a service, if they have no revenue, yeah, you would just project out the cash flows and discount them back to present value. But if a SaaS
Okay.
company, the ones they're going to be probably clients for, like an FD Partners, it's one of those things where I'm sure they have revenue, a lot of revenue. So projecting at their
Okay.
cash flows will be probably just a lot more about um, what their churn is, since it's a subscription software as a subscription. Really, it's a question of how much it costs to acquire a customer, so cost of customer acquisition, and specifically what their churn is, meaning what's their attrition, or like how sticky is their product. So if they have
Okay.
like, let me give you an example. Let's say it's a product where they charge, I don't know, $1,000 a month, but it costs them only like $500 to acquire a customer, and um, their attrition or their churn is like only 1% a month or something like that, or like
Mhm.
or 1% a year. Like, it's an amazing, like, the
Yeah,
question is,
it's a really good.
those are really good numbers, right? But let's say it's a $100 a month product. It costs $300 to acquire a customer, and their churns at 20% a month. It's a much tougher
Yeah.
business, right? So like those are critical metrics for any subscription service business, not just software.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Um, So I think those would be key metrics, and that's going to I bet you when you're building up the projecting revenue, the projections on the revenue side, the operating metrics or those churn numbers and those revenue growth and the customer acquisition is really what's going to drive your income statement, which
Mhm.
flows down to your cash flow.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So
Okay.
and that's going to be really how you would value it. You would project out those really critical key metrics, and ideally you have some history there. If it's I think FTs does some smaller works for some smaller companies, but they're working for some large SaaS companies as well, where you have probably some
Okay.
pretty good history and some insight into terms of how much you're going to close in the coming 12 to 18 months.
Mhm. Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that definitely helps. Thanks.
Cool. And you'd probably value like the installed base. That's something, the installed base of clients, and then the future. I mean, I don't know. I never worked in SaaS or fintech type,
Hmm.
so I'm not 100% sure, but that's how I would answer the question.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Um, and then I think I don't know if we got to this, but I asked this and I kind of cut you off. But
No,
in
no.
terms of like round two, Since he asked me a lot of valuation questions, do you think the next guy's gonna turn the page and kind of focus on accounting and like OBOs and maybe financing questions, or
M&A modeling.
okay, I'll just stick
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's going to be technical, especially at FT. It's going to be really technical, especially if it's an associate interviewing or an analyst. They may be tasked with specifically like asking you technical questions and just seeing how you
Okay.
handle it. Whereas if it's like an MD, it typically is more like, hey, oh, tell me about this, or oh, you went to UCI, I did too, or I had a friend that went there. Tell me
Yeah.
about this. It tends to be more chill. It's more like, can you hang out? And is there
Yeah.
a good cultural fit? So it's
Makes
funny because
sense.
some people assume the analysts will be like that or the associates because they're more like your age, but it's actually not the case. They tend to be tasked with doing the more, make sure you could pass the technical stuff.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, I would
Got
I would hit the technical course hard. I wouldn't necessarily go all the way to advanced. Start with the basics because like those are the most common, the basic and the
mhm.
intermediate, and make sure you have those down cold, like really really cold, because if you flame out or you say I don't know on a super advanced accounting question or super advanced I can guarantee that's gonna be much less harmful than if you flame out or burn out on like walk me through a DCF or like tell me about what's comparable or tell me what a precedent transaction is.
Got it.
If like
Okay.
you can't do that, those initial ones, those basic ones, you're just gonna get thrown out.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Whereas if
makes sense.
you flame out on a really tricky accounting question or a weird brain teaser, they may just let it slide if they really like you.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So really drill hard on that. Really, I would really encourage you to like when we get off this call, literally write, like name your 7 stories.
Okay. I will. I
Like
will.
literally name your 7 stories just in your head. Be like the B Riley, the YIB can be like that's one little thing, and walk me through and YIB, walk me through your resume, YIB, bullets on each of those. Those are separate. But then tell me about like your experiences. So B Riley can be one, but specifically what? Hard work at B Riley, work ethic at B Riley, specific deals, financial modeling at B Riley. What
Mhm.
was the situation? What did it tell me a story? Tell me an actual story. Don't just tell me you did these things. I was responsible for this. Tell me about like, oh, there was a deal and the analyst was really busy on another deal, and so I had to step up and do this model. Like you want to craft a story around your experiences such that you can bring people in to show, not tell them that you have the skills.
Okay. Makes sense. Also, when you asked me about a specific deal at B Riley that I've worked on, did
Mm-hmm.
I do well on that portion? Is there anything I can add to it? Because he asked me
Yeah, I
that.
might start asking you stuff about like industry there. Like, tell me about the battery industry. I might ask you about comps. What are they trading at? You said 10 times. I could have been a jerk and started drilling down on that. Like, well, how much do you know about the battery industry? What are other comps? You know, do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Okay.
Um,
Okay. That
so
makes
like,
sense.
you got to be a little careful. Whichever deal you choose, you should know a little bit about the industry and the landscape, since you worked in the deal and you're theoretically doing that for the seller or was it a buyer? It was a sell side, right?
Sell side.
Yeah. So you should know a little bit about like, who the buyers were. Why did you guys identify those specific buyers? What's the universe you
Okay.
went out to and why? That type of thing.
Okay.
Was it all strategics or was it just, were there any, it sounds like you were doing private equity, and a private equity fund ended up buying it. I may
Yeah.
ask, did you go to any strategics? Why not? You
Okay.
know, that type of thing. Um,
If I wasn't around for that portion, like that, like I kind of joined onto that project after, they were kind of like already in talks with like 2 private equity groups. So I kind of missed out on the whole, identifying the buyer universe and
I would learn
um
it and I would look it
okay.
up. Be like, I actually ended up joining midway through when they were already in talks with 2 private equity funds, but I do know looking at the documents of the deal that they had gone out to the strategic. I mean, that'll take you like 20 minutes to look it up.
Yeah, not bad.
But
Okay.
that's
Sounds
important.
good.
Then it shows like that actually is a really good little window of opportunity to show that you were curious and you looked back.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Or choose a
hmm
different deal. Or choose a different deal. But if that's the one you actually did some modeling on and you did some of the work like spreading the financials, all that stuff, then I would stick that because I think that's good.
Okay. Sounds good.
But kill your ums. Actually record yourself. like you're doing now, record yourself and doing the walk me through your resume, record yourself. And if you want to send those to me independently, I'll just look at them and give you feedback. Record yourself doing the YIB. And then I literally want at least six other stories. I want group dynamic stories where like you had to step up as a leader. I want conflict stories. I want you to tell me when you struggle with a team. I want conflict story of when you struggle with somebody that was leading you, you disagreed. And you can send all these answers in bullet form to me, like in an email.
Okay, sounds good.
And be like, here was the situation, one bullet. Here was the task I was given, or what my position within that organization or that story is. Here's the action. Here's what I did to kind of either fix it, go on, add value, whatever it was, and then here was the result.
Okay.
So all of them should have like 4 bullets. And that's like really the best way to, I think, approach the behaviorals, because I think if you have these stories, when you're telling it, you're not gonna be using "I work hard" or "I'm a hard worker." You're gonna make a statement like that, but you're gonna quickly just jump right into a story. Well, I think it's probably helpful if I tell you a little bit about my time over at this when I was working on here. If people are like, "What's the longest you worked?" You can say, 90 hours at B. Riley. You can say, instead of saying, just 90 hours at B. Riley, you can be like, well, at B. Riley one week I remember we were working on this specific deal in the battery manufacturing space, and the analyst was tasked to do this, and we got a flood of PDFs coming over, and somebody had to spread the comps, and I was there all night spreading the financials because we had to get from annual to monthly, and that's really good detail that you don't want to leave out. You don't want to forget to give me that perspective, because then I'm picturing you in the office, like working hard and just getting through it.
Okay. Can you repeat those 4 bullets? I have scenario and then action and result. I know I'm missing one.
It's STAR, so task. So like scenario, task, action, results. So task is like what you were, and this is all in the behavioral course. So at the beginning, I think in the first few here, I can go there. Am I in the behavioral? No, I'm in the technical. Let me go back. Behavioral, right here. General preparation. Here we go. Yeah, the STAR stories. Yeah. So right here. There are examples in the course as well. Something some people might do if they want to try to catch you off is they'll be like, "Tell me where the market's at." Do you know what I mean? So you got to be ready for that too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, general tips. I don't think that's. Maybe it's here. Here we go. Describe the situation, describe the task, describe the action, describe the results.
Okay. Got it.
Anyone can say he or she's a hard worker, willing to do mindless tasks, blah, blah, blah. What you have to do is show your interview that you can do this by using detailed examples from your past.
Okay.
Maybe you were the editor of your school newspaper. A news story broke 2 days before printing. You led your team through a coordinated crash effort to get the whole story into paper with no mistakes. So like, that's one example. But it becomes much more believable when you use this framework, because you'll just naturally start pulling in stories from your past as examples.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know A&M, when I was interviewing with them, all their behavioral interviews were STAR questions.
A lot of
like no question they asked me was
technical.
Like, walk me through your resume or technical. It was all like
situational. Yeah. And so like that's why I'm saying you should have 7 stories that you can pull from. Like when somebody asks you what are your greatest strengths, or tell me why we should pick you instead of all these people, it's the same question.
Yeah.
It's the same question. So like you saying my strengths are hardware, work ethic, adaptability, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm like asleep over here listening to you. Right?
Okay.
Like, show me, don't tell me. Show me.
Gotcha. Okay.
It'll really make a dramatic difference in terms of how well it's received. Make sure that you can back it up if they start asking details about the story and they dig in. The same holds true of not overselling yourself. and making sure that you're ready for follow-up questions. So like
Okay.
knowing the stuff there. But I think B Riley
Will
gives
do.
you some good stuff. Your other internship, you should be able to have at least one good story or two there. Um, and I don't know, any other like really competitive things you've done or stuff you've done from your past or times you've worked in as a team, I think is a great example, a great way to kind of demonstrate that.
Got it.
Is that cool?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I know you're like, oh shoot, I'm going into these second round interviews, so I got to prepare tech, but like you shouldn't underestimate this stuff because if you get the basic and the intermediate tech, like you're feeling better, you should really invest here in terms of getting just at least six stories. I remember by the time I had done like 30 interviews, that's just naturally what happened. And like looking back, I'm like, man, I should have just outlined all these stories and knew exactly what I was going to say on every single one. By the end, before they even finish the question, like in my head, I'm going like, do I want to use this one? Ooh, I should probably say that one for later just in case something like this is my last like weakness story that I can pull from. Right? You want a story where you can talk about like something you're working on or a weakness, like whether that's public speaking or financial modeling or whatever. So you don't want to go there. Like certain stories you kind of know you need for certain common questions, and other stories you have like some redundancy, so you can pull from this one and then from that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
But
does.
you'll get that feel as you practice more. So
yeah, I hear you.
it's a skill like anything else, man.
Yeah,
It's like a move
just
on the
gotta.
you play basketball, right? So it's like you get the ball, like let's say you get the ball in the low post, right? And you're like, okay, all you have is this like this one move where you're like a fadeaway, whatever, a jump hook or whatever. Like having all the other answers already prepped is like you literally going through the drills over and over again and trying different moves. It's all it is.
Yeah, gives you an arsenal.
It gives
An
you a
arsenal
little
of answers.
an
Yeah,
arsenal of answers that you don't even have to think about. That's the key. There shouldn't be any well, let me think of a time that happened. Like, no, dude, like you should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember. I think in one of our earlier phone calls, you mentioned that by the 15th interview, or one of your final interviews, it was less about the actual answer, but more about delivery. And I guess that's the point I'm trying to get to.
Yeah,
Well,
and I don't think you did poorly. I think you were a little rattled on
okay.
some of the technical stuff, but I liked how genuine you were. I still think you're a super likable guy, so I think you have that going for you. But you do need to tighten up the technicals if you're gonna have a chance. I'll let you run. I know you got to go soon. You do need to tighten up the technicals for sure, and I think you do just have something you can go to faster on those stories, like jump stories, and I think it's going to be much better. We can do another one though in like a couple weeks or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
It sounds like you're going to keep getting interviews, so that's good. The rest is working.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. It's definitely helping. Yeah, like the lady from Webbush was like, we really like she like emphasized like my resume and like my experiences, and she's like, wow, we really liked it. And then also the case study that I worked on definitely helped too. Yeah, so I'm super excited about that one as well. Just all of them in general. So
you're gonna get
excited
it,
to see where this goes. I know.
yeah,
I
one
know.
or the other. We're now 2 for 4. Like Andrew just got an internship offer.
Really?
Yes. You're next, dude. You're next.
Oh man, I got to speed it up.
No pressure. No pressure.
You gonna be in New York?
He's gonna be in Toronto.
Okay, that's where he's from though, right?
Yeah,
or like on the area. Okay.
Yeah, he's up there. The tiny little non-target up there.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That's awesome. I'm super happy for him.
Yeah,
And,
no, I think you're
where this goes.
I think you're gonna do well, man. I think you just gotta tighten it up a little bit. Don't slow down on your prep. Like this week's is critical. Like you don't want to let all these go by because you just like didn't know how to do something basic, or you didn't know how to do you didn't know how to answer valuation questions or the basic accounting things.
Do you have a specific method? For me, like when I study like anything, I kind of like read and then write it down. One of the interns at B. Riley had note cards.
Flashcards. There's flashcards in the
Yeah.
technical course. Download those and print them. Actually do it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I wanted to ask if you had any like
everywhere. Just be like boom, boom, flip, boom, flip, boom, flip.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely do that right now then. Okay, sweet.
There's not that many, but like that's the best way is just drilling, man. Just for the technicals, especially, just drill so that you're not caught off guard by 90% of the technicals. You'll just quickly be like, oh yeah, that's this, and this. Just make sure when you're answering the technicals, if you don't understand like conceptually what something means, because the flashcards are good for like quick drilling, but if you might have to go back and actually look at the course to understand specifically, like, okay, what's the context of this? Like, I can say this word or this abbreviation, but I have no idea what it means, and you can kind of get screwed. They're like, well, what does that mean, and why would we ever do that? What is
Yeah,
beta?
it's those follow-up
Why would
questions
we
that
ever
kill you.
unlever? Yeah, why would we ever unlever beta? And in the course, we do have the question, the sample answer, and then a follow-up question and sample answer. So we try to
Okay,
anticipate the
sweet.
follow-ups too, but just make sure you look at those.
Yeah, I will.
And understand conceptually like what the bank is doing, what's the point of the task. So you understand that, so you can communicate like you get it, like you understand what a bank does.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, sweet.
Dude, you're in good shape. Do not worry, you're in good shape. I think just keep pushing this week, and I think
this
that
week's gonna be crucial.
this week is crucial, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You should don't make sure you get sleep, but you should be staying up, to a decent hour drilling.
Yeah, I definitely will be. I don't have any midterms going on this week, so it's just
Awesome.
gonna be straight technicals and behaviorals as well.
So tell me, okay, so you don't know when Wedbush is, or you do?
So I don't know when Wedbush is. I don't even know when FT is. I have an in-person with the boutique Newport Beach Friday, and then A&M. A&M got back to me last week saying they're gonna get back to me this week. Honestly, that one is just like I'm not too concerned about. Investment making is still like where my head's
The good
at.
part about A&M delaying is now you have some things cooking.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
imagine if A&M had given you the offer 2 weeks ago and you're in that really tough spot where you didn't have much cooking.
Yeah, that's true. Now I kind of get more leverage.
Yeah,
If I do
it's
get
just
the
more
A&M
about
offer.
it's more about like, yeah,
Possibility.
if you get the A&M offer, dude, I can almost guarantee you get one of the offers from the other places.
Yeah,
So you
that
hope
makes
that
sense.
offer comes through like next week would be beautiful, because then you've already done a couple like the second rounds and you can let them know like I got an offer, but I still would like prefer to be in banking and your firm and at your firm specifically. So the other thing you need to point out, like if they ask you specifically, like, well, is our firm a number one choice? Sometimes these boutique firms can be a little bit, not like the boutique, but sometimes they can, like a Wedbush or an FT can be a little bit, I don't know, a little bit petty about like, well, are you going to renege or stuff like that?
Yeah.
I think one of the good things you could say is like, this is absolutely like my first choice. I'd absolutely sign today if given the offer. Just be like straight up, like you're ready to go. And I think you should be doing that now in your senior year, like without like you shouldn't be messing around.
Yeah.
Don't mess around and play cute because it could piss them off. And if you're like borderline between they're thinking you and this other guy who happens to go to a little bit more name brand school, whatever it happens to be, like you want to give him confidence. Like, hey, if we got this guy, he's locked and loaded. Be like, hey, if you give me the offer today, I'd sign absolutely. I have another offer from this other firm. I need to let them know by this Friday. Obviously, I want a job. I want to make sure I have a job when I graduate. But you can be sure that I would come here. I think that's a perfectly fine way to answer it, and I think it's going to give them confidence and will help you get the offer.
Makes sense. Okay.
Is that cool, man?
Yeah, that sounds great.
I'm excited for you. Oh, you better give me some good news in a couple weeks.
I hope so. I sure hope so.
Just buckle down, man. Just buckle down. Try to work late these next few nights, midnight, 1 a.m., whatever it has to be to just get comfortable.
Yeah, we'll do. Also, I don't know how I'm feeling about your hat.
No, yeah, go C's, man. They're kicking ass.
No, they're doing great. They're doing great, though.
Who are you, a Lakers fan?
Yeah.
Of course you are. Of course you are. You're LA.
Yeah.
My wife's from the area, but I've forced her to become a Boston fan on everything. I even got like
oh, really?
Yeah, I got her Tuukka Rask jersey. She was a Bruins fan. Now I'm like fully indoctrinating her.
Yeah. Oh man.
The Lakers could be.
We'll
You never know. It could be Lakers Celtics final. You never know.
Yeah, no, that's what I told one of my friends. I mean, they were both leading the charts, a couple games ago. I mean, you can definitely see it happen. Anything can happen in the playoffs. So
These are deeper, man. These are much deeper.
yeah, okay, we'll see. I'm excited. I mean, hopefully we do play each other.
It would be awesome. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well,
Awesome.
listen, good luck with everything. Definitely, yeah, just be ready this week. Be ready on Friday with that boutique. Take it really seriously. Um, and I think you'll be in good shape. The other good thing is if you get the offer from the boutique, you're in good shape. For the others, you can just let them know immediately.
Okay, sounds good. Let them know immediately that I'll take the offer.
No. For the boutique, I would tell them, great.
Oh.
So thank you, blah blah. I'm saying if for Wedbush or for the other ones, unless this boutique, maybe just message me after. I'll take a look at it. But unless the boutique does really well, sometimes these small little boutiques do really well. And so it just
I'm not
depends.
sure. Just looking at their tombstones, they do a lot of financing for healthcare and tech companies.
Okay.
They're super, super small. And yeah, I think there's only like one partner, two associates, and like one analyst or two analysts, and then like one other principal that's like in and out, I heard.
Okay. So yeah, you probably would prefer an FT or a Wedbush over that.
Yeah.
So if they give you an offer, I'd be like, hey, I'm super grateful. Let me just give it some thought over the week. Can I get back to you within a week or so, and then just let the other
Okay.
place know.
We'll do.
Because if they start trying to strong arm you and push you to accept, I think that's a totally fair request.
Makes sense. Got it. Thanks so much, Patrick.
Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'll get back to get back to you with these like 7 stories. If not
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Awesome, dude. Yeah. Good luck with everything. Okay. Keep me updated.
Thank you so much. Peace.
Bye.
And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, Patrick at wallstreetoasis.com. Until next time.